You are listening to the Central Indiana Sports Report, episode 142.1, our scoreboard for Wednesday's basketball games in Blackford, Delaware, Grant, Howard, Madison, Tipton, and northern Hamilton counties, although mostly Madison County in this one, with a report from Mississinewa-Southwood from Grant Shouse of the Action Sports Network, and with conversations with Frankton head coach Brent Brobston, Lapel head coach Kevin Sherry, and Anderson Prep assistant coach Mike King.
You're listening to the Central Indiana Sports Report with your host, Greg Mengelt.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Whenever you've chosen to listen to the Central Indiana Sports Report, we are so happy to have you along for the ride. Today is January 9th, 2025. It's a Thursday, so it's another day for the Central Indiana Sports Report. I'm your host, Greg Mengelt, and I love Central Indiana basketball. Coming today from Stage 22 in Elwood with Michelle Garmon of the Elwood Call-Leader and Tipton Tribune. She, of course, also loves Central Indiana basketball. Producer Susie is in the control room at headquarters in Jeffersonville. Michelle, we've had a lot of good basketball so far this season, but we've had a bit of a dearth of really exciting finishes. We had one tonight.
We did. We really did. It was a great game. It was in how it should be. It was in a tournament, the Madison County tournament to be exact, in the semifinal, and it was Frankton and Liberty Christian. And, it's probably fitting they were the second semifinal game of the night, because that was the best game of probably best game of the tournament so far.
Before we talk about all of the Madison County basketball games, Michelle, I'm going to go over some scores real fast. In the Madison County tournament, in the consolation bracket, Lapel beat Alexandria 87-53, and Anderson Prep beat Elwood 66-55, which means Lapel and Anderson Prep will meet on Friday, as will Elwood and Alexandria. In the semifinals, Anderson defeated Pendleton Heights 70-52 for the Indians' fifth straight win. And the second one was the thriller. Liberty Christian got the job done against Frankton, advancing to the county championship for the second year in a row on a clutch shot by Christian Townsend, a senior for the Lions. And Liberty Christian beat Frankton 58-55. Mississinewa got a big 52-31 win over Southwood. We will hear from Grant Shouse of the Action Sports Network, who was there calling that game. And Taylor remained unbeaten with a big 60-57 win over Mississinewa. And just outside of our area, Lawrence Central beat Park Tudor 69-53. And in the Randolph County tournament, Winchester 68, Union City 34, on a light Wednesday that's actually pretty busy for us for a Wednesday.
Yeah, yes, it was. It was a very busy Wednesday. Tournaments can do that, especially the Madison County tournament, because especially when it's pushed back a day, it means we get basketball 5 straight nights.
All right, well, let's talk about that Liberty Christian Frankton game, Michelle. Of course, we had 5 points on the line in that one. I had Frankton. You had Liberty Christian. Liberty Christian, I would say, controlled most of, at least the second half. They were in control for most of the second half. They led by 9 early in the fourth quarter. Frankton was able to shave it down to 2, and then they were able to tie the game in the waning minutes on a steal and a basket by Brady Carmack with 20 seconds left. Townsend then hit his shot with 5 seconds on the clock, and it wasn't over yet because Joey Wright's three-pointer to win the game bounced off the rim, and Liberty Christian advanced for the second year in a row.
I think that, it was a close game in the first half. It really was kind of a close game throughout. The difference, I think, really came down to, we talk about Liberty Christian's defense and how relentless it is and how it's able to give you quick points. And there was a stretch where it did give them some quick points, and that I think allowed them to separate a little bit for Frankton, and then had Frankton having to play catch up and come from behind, and that can be a really tough thing to do, especially when you're like Frankton, who is coming off a hard-fought win over Anderson Prep. I mean, Liberty Christian, they're 10 deep, they're a solid 10 deep, and they had a much easier game on Tuesday night against Elwood than Frankton did against Anderson Prep. I know Frankton won by 11, but it's still, they took more out of them, and Frankton is not as deep as what Liberty Christian is. And so, that makes a difference, I think, and probably that little bit of freshness and that depth was what made the difference.
The Lions are now 7-4 after the win. They were led by junior Jordan Harrelson, who had a season-best 16 points. Townsend finished with 11, as did sophomore star TJ English. Senior Marion Page had 10. Sophomore Tywayne Fuller finished with 4. The championship game against 10-1 Anderson is scheduled for 7:30 Friday at Anderson. Anderson beat Liberty Christian 54-51 in a thriller earlier this season, and 67-56 in last year's championship game. For Frankton's now 3-6. That sounds weird to say because that's a good team.
Yes.
19 points apiece from seniors Brady Carmack and Joey Wright. Sophomore Trey Bennett scored 6. Frankton will play Pendleton Heights in the consolation game at 6 o'clock on Friday. Pendleton is 4-6, and we talked to Coach Brobston about free throws. First of all, missing free throws. Second, that he was pretty happy with the performance, I thought, and where his team is at this point. And that, I don't know if he would have used the word scary, but Pendleton Heights is a pretty big obstacle in front of him on Friday night.
Yeah, it's like he said, you get a win, and what does, you win the first game of the tournament, and what does it get you? It gets you playing Liberty Christian and Pendleton Heights. And,
that's right.
But we said that this Madison County boys tournament was going to be a really good one and a tough one. And it is. I think I meant to ask Brent, and I forgot, so that's on me. So when he calls us in Friday night after he's done, I'm going to ask him if he thinks this is maybe one of the deepest, more balanced Madison County tournaments they've had in a few years, because there are a lot of teams that could, if they played it right, hit shots and stuff, they could win.
Six pretty good ones.
Yes, and most definitely. I'm looking forward to the Frankton Pendleton Heights game on Friday. I'm also looking forward to the Liberty Christian and Anderson game, because
that's coming up, Michelle. I don't blow it. We're going to talk about that one in a minute.
All right. Well, all I wanted to say is what I think it has done is it's kind of ironic how it ended up, because the third place game I think is going to feature two teams that are kind of similar. I mean, Pendleton Heights likes to run, do things, and I think their styles, Joe Buck and Brent Brobston styles, are a lot alike. And then you're going to have two run, gun, love to get out transition teams when they can, in Anderson and Liberty Christian. So
yeah, it does set up a really interesting Friday night. Earlier tonight, Michelle and I spoke with Frankton head coach Brent Brobston, and of course, I had to bring up the poor free throw shooting. Free throws, man. Free throws.
You are correct. If we make our free throws tonight, we win the game.
What did it say about your team to erase a 9-point deficit against a team like that in the fourth quarter?
Just shows their resilience, how tough they are, how hard they want to win. And that was the big thing, was I think that they did those things and they really battled to try to win the game. And coming back like that, the third quarter was deflating because we were down. We got down. Well, they shot a 3 from the corner. We didn't make it. And I'm sorry, we fouled them, and they made the 3 free throws. So that went up to 6. And I thought we played the end of the third quarter really well with our fouls, because we brought in some subs to foul. So, but that was a killer right there at the end of the third that really hurt us, and gave them some momentum. But then our kids, like you said, they fought back, showed resilience, and I was super proud of them, man. Our effort was just tremendous.
Well, Brent, I thought it was, and I thought you were Joey and both Brady, your veterans. I thought did a nice job of making sure that your team never panicked.
Yes, yes. Joey was really good at the tempo of the game, and he took care of the basketball. And I told Joey I thought it was his best game of the year that he's played. He really looked in form, and this was good. I mean, people don't know Joey Wright was hurt early in the season, so he was coming off an ankle injury, and he was out 5 weeks. So he's just now getting back to where he actually is feeling 100%. So I think we're finally getting to that point. But I thought he played outstanding. I really did, and I think the other guys did too. And I would say going into it, there's probably a lot of people that didn't give us a chance in that game, and we had a shot to win it.
Yeah, you did, and it's it was a fun game to watch. Like I said, you kept battling. I thought your kids just, Liberty Christian did what Liberty Christian does, and that is scoring some spurts, but you made sure those spurts were short spurts and never let them get a really long spurt.
Yeah, we tried to keep the momentum down, and I had to use, unfortunately, a few timeouts to get that done, which limited us to the one timeout at the end to get the shot to win the game. But yeah, you're exactly right. They play in some spurts, and that's what they do. I mean, I think probably beyond Wapahani, that's one of the most talented teams we've probably played all season, if not the most talented team. It's got really good weapons inside, outside, and then Harrelson made some big shots for him tonight, and he was averaging 3 a game. So going in, we were going to go ahead and let him take those mid-range shots and contest them. And credit to him, he made them.
Yeah. Now you get to come back on Friday, and you're going to face another good team in Pendleton Heights.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. You get the win, and then you go over here and you're going to play Liberty Christian in Pendleton Heights. It doesn't get any easier, right? So obviously Joe Buck is an outstanding coach, and Court's named it after him at Pendleton. So a man that we all highly respect that was there when I was in school, and watching them play is fun to watch. I mean, he just does such a great job of keeping them disciplined and doing the things right. I think we're a pretty similar program in the way we go about things, but they're going to be a little stronger and bigger at every position probably. So, how will we handle that? It'll be a great test for us again. We've lost 6 road games, and that's what I was telling someone tonight. We've got beat by Lapel. Our 6 road losses were Lapel, Tipton, Oak Hill, Monroe Central, Wapahani, Liberty Christian. So tell me which one of those 6, that aren't good. I mean, you're talking about 6 outstanding teams. And now we're on the road against Pendleton Heights. So we've played 10 games, 7 on the road and 3 at home. We've held home court on every game. And then we're going on the road on this one. So can we finally get a win on the road? But it's just another really good team. You're playing a 4A level team. So it will be great for us, just like tonight was. Put us in good situations in front of a crowd, and it'll be the same.
I have a feeling that Anderson first. Let's go through Anderson real fast before.
Yeah, let's do that. I just wanted to point out how ironic it was that that's kind of how the matchups ended up in the winners bracket.
Class 4A Pendleton Heights beat Class 4A number 7 Anderson beat Pendleton Heights 70-52. The Arabians got within 42-37 with just over 3 minutes left in the third quarter. Then Anderson scored the final 8 points of the third quarter and finished the game essentially on a 26-15 run to put it away. The first half was the real difference, Michelle. Anderson had 0 turnovers. Pendleton had 10 in the first half. Pendleton ended up with 16 in the game. Anderson is now 10-1. They've won 6 in a row. I think I said 5. Senior Damian King led the Indians with 22 points, 6 in the first quarter, 9 in the third. Senior Titus Hunter had a huge game, 16 points. Senior Aaron Morgan was also big with 13. Senior Javon Warfield, 9. And junior Colin Lewis scored 9. Anderson got 1 point from its bench. The Indians are going for a 4-peat They play in the championship game, of course, 7:30 Friday against 7-4 Liberty Christian
At Anderson on their home court.
at Anderson.
Now, I will say this. I said last night, I really think Anderson, their athletes, basketball players, are just on a different level. And I know you and I both picked Anderson to get that four-peat. And I just think, and they have the best player in the tournament. The King Kid is the best player on the boys' side of the tournament, I believe. And when you have that on your team, and then you get to fill it in with athletes, but not just athletes, skilled athletes, it makes it pretty tough. You become pretty tough to beat, and pretty tough to prepare for.
I'd like to see Liberty push Anderson again the second time around, but I just don't see it happening. But we'll talk about that going into Friday night. Of course, Michelle, you and I will talk much more about that championship game on Thursday heading into Friday, and we will make our prediction in that one and share our thoughts. In the consolation bracket, Lapel beat Alexandria on the Tigers' home court 87-53. Lapel is now 5-4. They had 5 players in double figures. Seniors Bodie Judge and Brody Judge had 18 and 15 respectively. Sophomore Quade Hall in his first start finished with 14 points. Junior Luke Jones had 13, and junior Devin Craig finished with 11. The Bulldogs will play against Anderson Prep for the 5th place game at Elwood, right, Michelle? Can
Yes.
we officially announce that that's at Elwood on Friday?
I am guessing. I would say that if we mess up, we'll correct it on the next podcast.
What we've heard is that the games are being moved to Elwood because the girls wrestling regional is at Alexandria on Friday, and it makes total sense.
Yeah, and they're going to have
There's no way.
Right, and I think they're going to have over 100 wrestlers
Yes.
there competing, because for the girls, there is no semi-state. They're going straight from regional to the state, so you're going to have a lot more teams than you normally do at a wrestling regional. So, yeah.
So we think Lapel versus Anderson Prep at 7:30, and before that, Elwood Alexandria will be played at 6 o'clock at Elwood. Michelle, we also spoke with the victorious head coach of the Lapel Bulldogs, Kevin Cherry, about his thoughts on a pretty good performance by his team. Coach Kevin Cherry joins us now after Lapel's big win over Alexandria. Coach, got to see a little bit of the game on the stream, and it looked like the offense was running pretty well tonight.
Yeah, it was, and we were able to create. I think we probably sped Alexandria up just a little bit outside their comfort zone. They're a very young team. They're a very talented team, and they do shoot the basketball at a very high level. They made 11 threes tonight, so 33 of their 53 came from beyond the three-point line. But ultimately, it was a game where I thought we just needed to get as many possessions as possible and speed the game up, and we did that, and it worked in our favor.
Kevin, how hard is it to get a team ready 24 hours later after a kind of a disheartening, tough loss to Pillen Heights, and to turn around and get them ready to play again?
Yeah, and the Pendleton Heights game, I'll just go back, and I'm sorry I wasn't able to touch base with you guys last night, because part of that was it was such a quick turnaround. We were at the high school watching film, and
We get it.
And getting that, so I wasn't able to touch base with you. But the Pendleton Heights game, there were many positives to take away from that, and there were some things we learned from and we have to get better from. But just to talk about the Pendleton Heights game real quickly, Liam Coe, freshman for us, got his first varsity start in that game, and he was tremendous. That moment wasn't too big for him. He comes away with a stat line of 6 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, and 0 turnovers.
Wow.
And so he stepped onto that in that moment and was great. We had good looks early, and they just didn't go down. And they were guys that we wanted shooting threes because they were open and they were within on our offense, and the shot selection was great. We just didn't make them. And then conversely, Pendleton Heights shot the ball at a high level to start that game and got out and on top of us. But then in that second half, we were fortunate enough to speed the game up a little bit with our press and 1-3-1. to try to claw back into it. It's a 6-point game with maybe a minute and 50 seconds to go. But credit to Pendleton, man, they are good. And I know Anderson took care of them tonight handedly, but Anderson
They're
is
really
extremely good too.
Yeah.
They're really good. And I don't know the details of that game. I just saw the final score, but I'm sure Pendleton would like another day of prep as well in between coming from us to Anderson. And but the Pendleton Heights team is going to win a lot of games, I think, this season before it's over. But
Yes.
so to answer your question, part of me was when I watched film, Marty Carroll does a fantastic job. The way his style is and the system that he runs, I mean, he could run 25 sets. I mean, it could just be set after set after set, and they're so disciplined in it. But they played Wapahani the first quarter. It's 18-13 at the end of one, I think it is, or 18-14. And it was a game where you're thinking, man, Alexandria, they're playing with Wapahani. So it's not like Alexandria is bad. Their record.
Well, they've had moments of that for sure.
Sure, absolutely. And so I'm thinking, gosh, short prep to go play Marty is at Alexandria is tough. So that was another thing going into that with my game plan was hey, we have a little bit more experience. Our guys are a little bit bigger, faster, stronger, just from the standpoint they're older. It's not like they don't have good athletes, but let's try to turn it into one of those types of games versus trying to guard a bunch of actions that they might run. So from that standpoint, a quick turnaround for our game plan that played into it with let's try to press and trap and try to score in transition.
All right, Coach. Tomorrow, or good thing it's not tomorrow. Friday against Anderson Prep, a team that's very improved, tied their record for most wins in a season this year, or in a season tonight. I'm guessing you don't want to be the record on Friday.
Well, no, I'm not, and I haven't seen his final score in Elwood. So do you know?
66-55.
66-55. Okay, and Elwood was ahead by 2, I think, at halftime. That's when we left. But yeah, obviously APA has very good athletes. It's a much different team than it was last year, and we played them in the county tourney. I think it was last year, maybe it was 2 years ago. Anyway, but they have athletes and they have some new pieces this year, and that'll be a good challenge for us. They played 2-3 zone tonight. I don't know if that's them. To be honest with you, that's the first time I've watched them play. We just haven't had any common opponents. So I've got a bunch of requests out for film, and we'll start studying them tomorrow and hopefully before 3 o'clock get a good game plan ready to go do that Friday. But they certainly rebound the basketball very well. They're very athletic. And, the thing about our guys is I told them if it's all 13 of us and we dress 13 and we play 13 tonight, and we have 4 guys in double figures, like I think our depth can be a real advantage. And if it's 13 of us coming at guys every single night for 32 minutes, I don't think I don't want this to sound arrogant because it's not, and we can certainly be beat by a lot of teams, but 13 guys, maximum effort, 32 minutes. We don't care who gets credit. It's just play as hard as you possibly can and be unselfish. I think we have a chance to win a lot of nights. So that'll continue to be the theme the rest of the season and every day in practice is maximum effort. That we can control that, and we'll see what happens on Friday.
Early enough.
Michelle Anderson Prep won its 6th game of the year, beating Elwood 66-55 at Alexandria. That's the most wins ever, tied now for the most wins ever in program history for Anderson Prep. So very cool accomplishment for them in what has been an absolutely historic season. They had never been 1-0 before. They had never been 2-0 before. They did both of those things, and now they've won 6 games for just the second time in program history. And they did it by outscoring Elwood by 13 points in the second half and an 11-point win.
Yeah, and if they could by chance win on Friday night, then they'll finish in 5th place, and that may be the highest they finished in the tournament.
The Jets were led by 6-3 in case I didn't mention it. Senior Marcus McLean with 19 points. Senior Lincoln Fathauer 14. Senior Zamarian Bryant finished with 11, and senior Cameron Anderson finished with 9 for APA. When we talked to Coach Mike King, the assistant coach for APA, he said that defenses started focusing on Fathauer after his hot start to the season, and the rest of the team has taken advantage.
Anderson Prep, and I think those other kids too are not just taking advantage, but I think they're playing with the confidence. It's amazing getting some wins and getting off to a good start when you're historically not real good or real competitive. It can really change.
Like Elwood's girls, for example.
Yes, you become more confident the longer you go, and the other kids are ready and confident and stepping up and taking and making shots. It's winning can be contagious.
And here is Coach King. Always appreciate him calling in with his thoughts on the win.
The Madison County tournament is one where it's got good teams all over the place. And to get a win is, we'll take it and run like a bandit. And so it's just good to get one.
What did your team do well?
Well, tonight, we had a tough one last night with Frankton.
Right.
And tonight for us, it was about bounce back. It was about let's do the things that we, have been trying to do all season. Started off slow. You give a lot of credit to Elwood. They played hard. We just didn't get shots to fall early. We just, that kind of stuff. And the thing I think for us was the stick-to-itiveness. We just kept going at it, and finally it started to work for us.
It looks like, early in the year, you're getting a bunch of production out of Lincoln. More recently, it seems like a lot of balance. Is that an intentional thing, or is that just something that's happened?
Well, I think a little of both. The good news for us is, and when we've talked to other people, it's, well, what's the difference? And that kind of stuff. And for us, between this year and previous years, well, the good news for us is we've got, 4 or 5 guys we can put out there that just know how to play basketball. And that hadn't always been the case. And so a part of it is that, we've got some other guys that on any given night can go out and score 18, 20 points. And so that having been said, Lincoln started off the year really well. So that caused a lot of teams to play, to single him out and to play defense on him in such a manner. But that opens up opportunities for other people. And they've done a good job of kind of filling into that role when needed.
Coach, I saw you were 15 of 26 from the free throw line. Is that a little bit why the game you feel like maybe was a little bit closer?
Yeah, well, yeah. We, like everybody else, we try to shoot plenty of free throws during practice, and sometimes, we try to be aggressive to the hole, to the rack, and so in doing so, we try to get a lot of free throws during a game, and sometimes, for our guys, they just fall, and other times, they just don't. And tonight was one of those times, especially early, where we really struggled from the line, first quarter, second quarter. And then the good news for us is that when it mattered, kind of mid fourth quarter or so, when the game was still kind of tight, we did what we needed to do. Our guys stepped up and hit some free throws.
Gonna guess you guys are probably glad now to have a day off to get a chance to prepare.
Yeah. The thing about our schedule is we had, I think it was 17 days between games, and then now we've had 2 and 2 days and 3 and 4 days. Tomorrow will be a good day for us to kind of get into the gym and just kind of, not rest up, but trying to heal up a little bit, trying to get some legs back underneath us, and we'll prepare for Lapel, and it's going to be another tough challenge, and then we'll get back after it on Friday.
Elwood falls to 2 and 8, but really, Michelle, with the pieces the Panthers have back, they weren't competitive against Liberty Christian, but they certainly didn't get embarrassed by them. I thought they looked much more comfortable out there than they looked in the wins or in earlier games. And then tonight to lead Anderson Prep at halftime and play within 11 points of a team that just beat them by 24 kind of tells you that the infusion of talent is probably a good thing for Elwood.
Infusion of talent, I probably lean, I get that too, is a little infusion, but it's mainly, I think, just the return of their ball handlers. I mean,
yeah,
that, getting Schuler's hand being healed enough that he can play, getting Cam Gallegos back is huge because it gives Elwood now kids that can handle the ball and help do things the way that, Coach Van Skyok, that Ryan wants him to do, and, control tempo and everything. And, I know the Liberty Christian score when you lose by 41 points, but you're right. There were times that Elwood played looked good. They just didn't make some shots, and that pressure got to the Panthers. And I think it was more because, yes, they got their point.
A factor.
Yeah, and they got their point guards back, but this group has not. This is the first time all year they've had everybody healthy, and so they're going to have to get going to gel together, and it looks like it might not take as long as what Ryan thought it would, because they did play well against Anderson Prep tonight, or on Wednesday.
Right, on Wednesday. Junior Corbin Level had his best game of the season with 15 points. Gallegos finished with 11. Senior Jaden Mullins, 10. Sophomore Jackson Gordon, another nice night, 2 in a row with 8 points. The Panthers play 2 and 10 Alexandria for 7th place on Friday at 6. And again, we think that will be at Elwood, but we're not absolutely certain. So please check with the athletic departments before you go. Mississinewa, very impressive performance tonight at home, Michelle, against a Southwood team that was expected at least to be pretty good, 52-31. Mississinewa is 5-5 now and has won 3 of their last 4. Let's hear about how the game went from Grant Shouse, and then we'll talk about it a little bit. Seems like a really good performance for Mississinewa, a 21-point win over what at least was thought to be a good Southwood team. Tell us what happened.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I was pretty shocked at what happened. Mississinewa this year, well, I guess in the last couple games, including tonight and even against Newcastle, has played a really good first quarter. Like, they put together a really solid first quarter, and that's what they did tonight. And they were up 10-4 at the end of the first quarter. And I kind of thought to myself, I was like, well, Southwood's only down 6. Mississinewa will lay down defensively. They'll roll over. No. Southwood couldn't get anything going inside. They have a big kid, Bryce Wilcox, at 19 points a game, just shy of 10 rebounds, almost a walking double-double. Shut him down. I mean, whenever he caught the ball in the post or whenever he got it, I mean, there were 3 guys collapsing the ball every time. They got off to a good start in the first quarter, but like I said, I was like, okay, they'll roll over. Southwood will get back in this to be a game. No, Mississinewa outscored Southwood 22-7 in the second quarter. Just went off, had a balanced scoring. Bravion Fetz, a couple big threes from Grady Schnepp. Those were huge. Just to get the momentum going. They were up 32-9 at the half, and still a steep hill for Southwood to climb, but they, you could see in the second half when Southwood came out, they came out with a sense of urgency. They came out, looked like they were ready to go. Southwood actually outscored Mississinewa 11-7 in the third quarter. So the second quarter was the biggest difference. Like, Mississinewa outscoring them 22-5. They outscored them in the second quarter. That was huge. Like, one of the best quarter performances I think I've seen from a team all year. Ravion Fetz had 12 points for them. Tyvon Jacobs, off the bench for Mississinewa, scored 12 points, hit some couple big threes in the second half. He actually won our sub of the game. Our star of the game went to Keontae Woods. He only had 9 points. Kevin had him for 8 rebounds. That was big. But yeah, just a good all-around performance from Mississinewa tonight. A good bounce-back performance. They needed that. Like, I really think that's one of the – I don't know where Southwood's record's going to be at the end of the year. Southwood can compete and probably could win their sectional on their home floor, just because the competition in that sectional may not be up to standard. And for them, I think that's a quality win for Mississinewa when they look back on it at the end of the year. You know, Southwood's not terrible. That is not a bad team. They just didn't show it tonight.
Um, Grant, do you kind of feel like maybe that Mississinewa now has gelled the new pieces, the surrounding woods, and they're starting to gel, and now they're just going to maybe go on a roll to end the second half of the season?
I do. I think they're gelling together well. And Coach Brooks always talks about how it's a brotherhood with these guys. Like you know, they're a family. This is a family. Mississinewa. They play Mississinewa basketball. But I agree. I think they are kind of gelling together. I don't think there's issue. I don't think there's like. I think the team chemistry is good. You know, they have guys that want to be there. Coach Brooks told us after the game that on Tuesdays and Thursdays, they get in the gym at 5:45 in the morning, and they get shots up as a team. This is a mandatory thing. Like they get shots up. Last year it wasn't a mandatory thing for them, but they had a great turnout for it. They had a lot of guys that came to it. Practically the whole team would have come to it there in the morning at 5:45 starts on school days. And so he said this year they made it a mandatory thing. So I think when you get guys that buy in and they can get up at 5:30 in the morning, come over to the school, get shots up, that's huge. Like that's so big for these teams. Like you get the guys to gel together correctly. They want to be in the gym. They want to get in the gym together. That's always a recipe for a pretty solid team.
All right, Michelle. Mississinewa goes to Blackford on a Friday for a big CIC game. You have to feel like, especially hearing from what Grant had to say, that Mississinewa likes its chances of winning that, and if they win that, they're back in the CIC race.
Yes, I think that Mississinewa, we talked about this too, that it was going to be growing pains for them a little bit because Keontae Woods is the only returning starter they had. Their offense is run by a freshman point guard, and he's got to get experience when he's got a half a season under his belt. So he's on his way to becoming a sophomore, and he's getting better. And Mississinewa is well coached. Coach Brooks does a nice job. I really look for them to get on a roll here in the second part of the season. A win over Blackford, and that should be a very fun and exciting game, I think. A good contested game, and I think it'll be great for both teams because they both kind of have that youth, and they're looking for a place to try to stay alive in the CIC race.
Well, they Southwood earlier in the year won at Blackford, so but recently Southwood has lost 3 of its last 4. However, 2 of those losses were to Manchester. Really good. They beat them 83-27 and 83-47 in 2 games. So, Manchester team.
Yeah, watch out for that Manchester team, and that could be a little bit. Southwood could be in a funk, and part of it is it's not ever fun to lose, but when you get whipped twice, by the same team, it's even though they may be good, it can lower morale just a little bit. So, it was probably Mississinewa's probably got to play Southwood at the right time. So it'll be interesting to see if Southwood's able to regroup and play better. Like I said, I think Mississinewa is just going to probably keep getting better as long as they stay healthy. And I think they're probably really now starting to be able to find ways maybe to get Keontae the ball, and if they have other players stepping up and hitting shots, then that also opens the inside for Woods. And if it doesn't, then teams can double and triple team him when he gets the ball. And that's why role players are so important. People that think that role player, that your child whether female or boy, has to be the star. A lot of the real heroes of the games are those role players that know their roles, execute their roles every single day in practice and every night in a game, are always ready and step up when needed. And having those kids is what makes you be a championship team. Because almost every team has, or I should say not almost every, but more than 80%, around 80% or more of the teams, they have a star or two. But you find that consistency from your role players.
Michelle Taylor is 10-0 after a big 60-57 win over McConaughey. McConaughey star Josiah Ball had a shot at the buzzer to try to tie the game and send it to overtime that came up short. So the Titans are 10-0 for the second time in 3 years. However, this was the Titans' last home game until January 31st. Listen to this. They go to Rossville, then they go to Eastbrook, then they go to Clinton Central, to Western, to Frankton, to Indianapolis Riverside. If they are 16-0 by the end of that, we got to start recalibrating on Taylor.
The only guaranteed win I think in that group is Clinton Central. I mean, I just think Taylor athletically has too much, but for Clinton Central to really challenge them, but that is a daunting task.
But they could also go 3-3 in that, and they'd be pretty good.
Yes, definitely. Like I said, that's what I said. I think that's the only guaranteed win. What I would call a guaranteed win, that I would call it, a lock. If you we don't bet on this. I don't bet either. But I know they use terms like lock.
Yes,
and that would be the only lock in my view. Point. Good win though for Taylor. And again, we talk winning is contagious. Success breeds success, and it. What that football team accomplished this fall seems to be, and just carrying over to the basketball. And really, you kind of saw Taylor was going to take a step this direction at the end of last season.
And again, no seniors of their 3 stars. They're all underclassmen. All right, Michelle, in the girls' picks competition between us, I'm winning. In the boys' picks competition, you are winning. The score after Wednesday is Michelle 64, Greg 50. Michelle outscored me 7-2 on Wednesday, but that will not last long. The big one, of course, came down to the final shot. Michelle got 5 points because she took Liberty Christian. I took my alma mater, Frankton, and paid for it. So let's go over it real fast. There are no games on Thursday before a full slate back again for the first time on Friday and Saturday. All right. Pendleton Heights versus Anderson. I picked Anderson by 13. Michelle said it would be more. It ended up 18. She gets that one. I said Lapel by 15 over Alexandria. Michelle said more. It was 34. She kind of laughed at me when I said only 15, and she was right. So those were the only two Michelle got besides the big one of Liberty Christian. So she got 7 points. I got 2 points. I picked Anderson Prep by 24 over Elwood, and Elwood kept it within 11. Thank you, Panthers. And I said Mississinewa by 6 over Southwood. You said it would be less, and it ended up 21.
I know. I don't think you thought it would be 21 either, did you?
No, I did not. I kind of waffled there whether I took Southwood, in fact. So, so that's it for this one. We will have our picks again on Thursday for Friday's games. And, of course, there will be no boys basketball scoreboard except for that. But when we talk about Fridays and Saturdays games, we talk for a long time. So it will be what essentially is a full scoreboard, and we might talk to a coach or two. We'll see. Thanks again, Michelle. Always appreciate having you. You are the best. Thanks also to Grant Shouse of the Action Sports Network for calling in, talking about Mississinewa and Southwood. Also, Frankton head coach Brent Brobston, who I actually went to school with. I don't know if you knew that. Lapel head coach Kevin Cherry, and Anderson Prep assistant coach Mike King. And thank you for listening. Please go right now and like, subscribe, or follow us so you do not miss a single segment. And if you would be so kind, please tell a friend. The Central Indiana Sports Report is a product of ITG Media.
Oh, and Greg loves Susie.